Honorable President, honorable members of Parliament, it is our constitutional custom that the government, at the beginning of every parliamentary session, calculates the decision-making between the two sessions. At a time like this, we inform the House of Representatives about the government's plans for the next session. This is why I have asked for your attention. Let us begin with the fact that this summer, after spending 45 years in space, the Hungarian flag fluttered once again. After 45 years of endless space travel, Tibor Kaput flew Hungary high, placing our nation at the forefront of space exploration in the international arena. We congratulate our astronaut, Tibor Kaput. I congratulate the dozens of unknown experts before the public, without whom this would not have been possible. I also thank the work of the leaders of the government, especially the work of Minister Ferenc Orsoy, our Secretary General. From now on, she has earned the name of Space Spaniard. In total, at least 20 countries have succeeded in placing at least 2 Space Spaniards in space. This means that we are in a club that accounts for 10% of the world. Honorable members of Parliament, significant events have also taken place in European politics this summer. It is not new that wars, migratory pressure, and a new economic and technological revolution pose a challenge to the European Union. It is also not new that the international political and power space is undergoing rapid changes. In our 3.5-year-long war-torn eastern neighbor, the Middle East is once again comparable to a gunpowder war, and we must get acquainted with new and more dangerous threats. What is new is that the President of the United States has been fulfilling his election promises from point to point. This is new because this has become a custom in the Western world. It is time to take seriously that the United States has begun a deep transformation of the previously unassailable trade world order. It is also new because the countries of the Far East, China, and the so-called Global South have taken up arms. They are showing such strength and organization that we have not seen for decades. India did not allow the Western economic pressure, did not step back, but has intensified its cooperation with the Chinese-Russian Sea. This will have an impact on Hungarian foreign trade and Hungarian foreign policy as well. And it is also new because the European Union has shown deep decline in its performance and has completely withdrawn itself from the narrow club of global powers. Why this is the case, we understood from the speech of von der Leyen's wife on 10th of September, when we discussed the situation of the European Union in the European Parliament. The President of the European Commission said that the European Union is at war. She said that a military economy is needed. We are, on the other hand, operating in a competitive environment. Instead of competitiveness, the President's wife said that Ukraine's financing would be the most important. She announced that she would initiate further institutional centralization and new member state influence. We knew that there would be no migration in the European Union. They will not examine the green policy of the European industry. They have announced that they will continue to intensify Ukraine's membership process. And there will be new trade agreements, with which a significant part of the member states have already given in. Honorable House, Hungary openly had to say, and during the autumn it had to repeat on several occasions at foreign policy meetings, that Hungary has not given in to anyone to wage war in its name. Hungary is a member of the European Union. Hungary is a member of the European Union. It does not wage war with anyone, so the European Union cannot wage war either. Of course, the war party countries can see themselves as countries that are at war, but we cannot use the Union for war purposes, even if a single country opposes it, and Hungary opposes it. Hungary does not want the European Union to be at war. This is why we do not support Ukraine's membership either. We believe that war with Ukraine would also put its foot in the Union's own bloody reality, because von der Leyen has also announced that she will protect every inch of the Union's territory. I think she would also protect Ukraine if it were to join the European Union. This is precisely what we believe. If the European Union takes up Ukraine and wants to protect its territory, then we are already at the brink of war. Mr. Speaker, Hungary has been living in the shadow of the Ukrainian war for 3.5 years. and it bears all its consequences. Hungary has been saying for 3.5 years that the war has no military solution, only diplomacy, but it does have a diplomatic solution. In the summer, American-Russian exercises began. Hungary recommends that there be European-Russian exercises as well. Let us not hesitate to decide again about the fate of Europe. It is also obvious to me, Honorable Speaker, that joining Ukraine would destroy Hungarian economy, would reorganize the foundations of European agriculture, and in the end our money would also end up in Ukraine. The Ukrainian membership would almost completely abolish the Union's funds for development, and Hungary would become a subsidiary of the position it had previously supported. The vote on the membership of Ukraine is more than 2 million votes, which clearly highlights Hungary's position in this matter. But we must reckon with the fact that Brussels and several member states, as well as several European parties, including Hungarian parties in this respect, want to change Hungary's position and want to break the resistance of the Hungarians. I would like to make it clear here as well that if Ukraine joins the European Union, it will take Hungary and Europe hostage, and we have no reason to support this. Honorable Speaker, in the summer, the government had to deal with the issue of our country's energy security, because the Friendship coal oil leadership was won by Ukrainian attacks. We have called on Ukraine not to endanger Hungary's energy security and to terminate its attack on the energy transport route leading to Hungary. I would like to emphasize here, and the Ukrainians should also be grateful, that Hungary is Ukraine's first ever electricity supplier. Honorable Speaker, everyone in Hungary understands that the Russian gas and the Russian Friendship coal oil are inseparable from the maintenance of the housing stockpile. Thanks to the decisions of the Hungarian government, we will be able to provide the lowest electricity and gas prices for the Hungarian families in the EU in 2025. Without a reduction in gas prices, each family would pay hundreds of thousands of forints more annually for their energy. Honorable members of Parliament, I would also like to inform you that in the summer we were unable to withdraw the Migration Pact in Brussels. We sought partners, but we are still not satisfied with it. For this reason, the European Commission still wants to force the Migration Pact into Hungary. According to the plans, the pact is to be implemented in 2027. This is the year in which they want to implement it. The left-wing parliamentary opposition parties support the Migration Pact here in this House, and the TISA party also supports it outside the House. I have stressed that Hungary's government opposes the Migration Pact. It will not accept it, and it will not implement it. For 10 years we have defended our country, Europe, and our borders against illegal migration. For 10 years we have defended the southern border. For 10 years we have declared our struggle for freedom against Brussels' suicide migration policy. You may recall that we were threatened in Brussels, that we were bombarded in several Western capitals, but we Hungarians resisted. We closed the southern border, and we said that only those on whom we would allow this could set foot on Hungarian soil. We can see what the migration has brought to the West. Public safety has collapsed in several major cities. Migrant gangs are threatening people. Crime, burglary, and often explosions. Hungary, on the other hand, is an island of peace and security. The number of illegal migrants is 0. Migration and background crime are unknown in Hungary. Honorable members of the House, Honorable Speaker, you also know that Brussels has imposed financial sanctions on Hungary because it does not allow migrants. They are blackmailing us, and because we do not allow them, they fine Hungary with 1 million euros every day. This is a disgrace to Brussels. The TSZ party and the DKK have announced that they would fulfill Brussels' demands. The government believes that this would be a suicide policy. The government's position is that migrants should not be allowed in. There is no room for attempts at migration because there is simply no room for error in the issue of migration. I say openly that I do not see a possible compromise between the opposition and the government on this issue. As long as there is a national, if not Brussels, government in Hungary, the southern fence will remain. There will be no migration pact. There will be no migrant ghettos, and there will be no migration crime. Honorable members of the House, Hungary should pay particular attention to the economic situation of the European Union. The current economic policy of Brussels is not only low-level, but slow, flawed, and even inoperative. It was not always like this, but now it is. The serious question of the months ahead of us is whether the European Union can change this. For 16 years, I have been part of the European economic policy, including 4 years of joint talks, and for 20 years. I have seen successes and failures, and I have seen the insatiable desire of the government's quality of work, which has led from Barroso to von der Leyen. I see the differences between the United States. I am not talking about the difference in personal abilities. There are differences, but they are secondary. I am talking about the fact that the current structure of the European Union is not suitable for the success of the member states' economies. It is a major issue how the European Union should and could be transformed, and the economy should be put back on track. This is not our task today. But because of our responsibility to the Hungarian people, we cannot avoid honest opposition. I have to tell you, dear members of Parliament, that I do not see in the European Union the capacity for renewal that we would need. But I do see the decisions being made. I see the centralization plans. I see the hard-fought policies, the stubborn defense of prestige. I see the United States and Asia that stand by us. And I see Hungary's ability, strength, and knowledge to develop faster. And the pace of development should not be that of the European Union, but that of the United States and Asia. Dear members of Parliament, if the European Union does not make a sharp turn, then its history will come to an end. Many people imagine that the European Union will collapse or disintegrate. They envision some kind of dramatic, fast-paced book. I believe that the nature of things in the European Union is not such. It is more like a pile of rubble. It is more like the weakening of the end. The Union is more likely to disintegrate and move apart. Even in the Roman Empire, for a long time, they believed that it would still be standing when it had not existed for a long time. This is what awaits us. Decisions are made somewhere in the Brussels center, and the member states do not follow them to the end. The center is less and less able to force its will, because it no longer believes in its own success. Like the bad GPS, it is constantly redesigning, but it never reaches its destination. Migration, green transition, climate policy, sanctions. How much of this is a distraction, and what are the consequences? Last November, here in Budapest, when we handed over the presidency of the European Union, we accepted a competitive pact with a strict travel schedule. How many % did we move in the course of a year? More than in Brussels, perhaps a third. That too, as it were. While the Americans are reorganizing their economies with brute force, the Chinese are pulling their horses by the horse carriage. Last week, Mario Draghi, who was the president of the European Central Bank, a committed European federalist, I believe, held a press conference. He recounted what the Union had achieved from its announcement a year earlier. Now I would like to draw your attention to some observations. The basis for Europe's growth is further weakening. The financial sector is shrinking. In the next decade, the EU's public debt will increase by 10%, and by the end of the century, it will still be 93%. The professor says that our growth model is weakening, and that our vulnerabilities are increasing, and that there is no clear way to finance investments. He says that our vulnerabilities not only threaten our competitiveness, but also our sovereignty. The situation requires a different path, a new pace, a new step, and a new intensification. On the front of artificial intelligence, which is important, last year the United States produced 40, China 15, and the European Union produced 3 basic models. He reminded us, the President of the National Bank, the President of the European Central Bank, that in the machine industry, where 13 million people are employed, European innovation has fallen, models are expensive, and supply chain policy has collapsed. He advises us that this is his urgent call. I quote him, "We need to go beyond general strategies and backward action plans. We need concrete dates and tangible results, and we must take responsibility for this. Honorable House, I know the European leaders. I can tell you that this will not happen. But if it did, it would be better. I advise you not to expect the desperate direction, the desperate quality, and the desperate deterrence of Brussels' economic policy. In the past few months, the government has decided not to wait any longer, but to launch its own national path-following economic program. I told the Honorable House that on 1st July, we launched Europe's largest tax reduction program. This year, on 1st July, we reduced the tax and interest rates. In the case of the tax, this meant an average of 78,000 forints per month, while in the case of the interest, 43,000 forints was more than the income of a family. Also, on 1st July, we increased the family tax rate by 50%. We will not wait any longer, and on 1st January 26th, we will increase it by another 50%. This means that a family of 2 will receive 40,000 forints per month, and a family of 3 will receive more than 100,000 forints per year. We will not wait any longer in Brussels. This means that from mid-October this year to 1st January 26, a family of 3 will receive a pension for the rest of their lives. This amounts to 1 million forints. By increasing the family tax rate and by providing a pension for a family of 2 and 3, a family of 2 will receive 1.7 million forints per year, and a family of 3 will receive 2.4 million forints per year, and this will remain the same in 2026. These measures, and I am not talking about child poverty, will add up to 4,000 billion forints to the families in the next 4 years. This is what we call a government family-friendly tax revolution, which we will undertake and do. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce to the House of Representatives that we have launched the most grandiose home-building program since the regime change on 1st September, the Fixed 3% Trust. The Home Start is a valuable help to everyone who does not have their own homeowner. 10% self-empowerment, the Fixed 3% Trust, which is much more favorable in terms of market value, or a trust worth 50 million forints, or a 25-year running time. There is no risk to the trust, there is no risk to a folium. The Fixed 3% Trust opens up the opportunity for young people under the age of 10,000 to become homeowners. The Fixed 3% Trust gives young people ownership, and thus strengthens the Hungarian citizenry. This is the program to widen the Hungarian middle class. The interest is enormous. In 3 weeks, more than 10,000 trust applications have been launched around the country. We estimate that within 5 years, more than 50,000 new homes will be built on top of the usual annual new homes. This gives serious momentum to the Hungarian economy, is good for the construction industry, and strengthens the Hungarian region. Honorable members of parliament, the government has decided, and in the summer it extended, the reduction in prices until November 30th, and has accepted voluntary limitations from banks, insurance companies, and telecommunications companies. We defend against excessive and unjustified increases in prices. In August this year, inflation was measured at 1.6% of the total cost-cutting measures. In addition, the government also provides food supplies worth 30,000 forints to nearly 2.4 million pensioners. The government has also decided to extend the China-Taiwan in the next 6 months. Against the government's decision, the banks turned to the Constitutional Court. I inform you, honorable members of Parliament, that the government accepts this conflict. The China-Taiwan is worth a total of 200 billion forints, with 286,000 trust applications. We do not accept the significant increase of 15%, which would occur in the trust-breaking sections in the case of the China-Taiwan extension. I inform you, honorable members of Parliament, that at the last session of the government, it decided on the amount of compensatory pensions. In light of the government's decision, due to higher inflation, pensions for pensioners will be increased by an average of 51,155 forints this year, with an average of 47,200 forints in November pensions and the remainder in December pensions. The government's further conviction is that the increase in pensions must at least be compatible with inflation. This was confirmed last year, and this year the government is turning 112 billion forints for this. The amount is in the budget. Honorable members of Parliament, under the leadership of the President of the Brussels Committee, the Brussels Committee has signed an unfavorable agreement with the United States of America, which does not serve the interests of Europe and which has consequences for the Hungarian economy that must be countered. For this reason, the Ministry of National Economy has developed an action plan for industry and job protection. With the contribution of the economic actors in the ongoing plans, the fixed payment credit, which helps small and medium-sized enterprises, is also part of the plan, and we are also planning to reduce the number of workers' pensions. We will continue the Workers' Credit Program. Until mid-September, it raised more than 30,000 forints, or 112 billion forints. Our universities are successfully connecting with the economic actors. I mean that our new universities are thriving. There are more than 30,000 universities in the world, and 12 Hungarians make up the top 5%. Professor Krauss, along with 3 other Nobel Prize winners, launched the program with which we can place the young talented researchers on the world stage. We launched the Demian Sandor program, which serves to strengthen small and medium-sized enterprises. The total amount of payments reached 100 billion forints in September. We have already evaluated 1,500 applications, 1,351 applications, and a successful enterprise has already begun implementing the developments. Honorable House, Brussels does not like our national economic route plan. The European Commission has urged Hungary to introduce progressive taxation, to reduce tax incentives, to increase the reduction of interest rates, and to abolish the Kamak tax and the Ares tax. This is why it is necessary to have a social debate on public transport and the one key personal income tax. This is why the government has announced a national consultation on public transport. The questionnaires will be posted at the beginning of October. The consultation will begin at the end of October. I urge everyone to publicize their opinion, fill out the forms, and send back the questionnaires. Honorable members of Parliament, at the beginning of the year, we launched a transport hunt against drug dealers. The conclusion of the transport hunt is clear. The police's approach to the government's recommendations is legally and unbiased. The drug dealer is a person who lives a good life by torturing and even killing other people's children. Behind every drug dealer is organized crime. Organized crime has nothing to do with it. The amendment of the Basic Law also stipulates at the highest legal level that in Hungary, the establishment, use, expansion, and popularization of drugs is unlawful. Although we have already introduced the strictest anti-drug laws in Europe, there are still a few criminal offenses and regulations missing. I ask the Honorable House to create these in the interest of the Hungarian children during the autumn session. I declare to the Honorable House that since the start of the police action in March, we have removed more than 1 ton of drug from the black market. We have launched 6,581 criminal proceedings. We have seized assets linked to drug trafficking worth more than 900 million forints, as well as hundreds of personal vehicles. More than 7,000 controlled and criminal actions took place in the country. More than 22,000 people took part in the Delta program in the ranks of police and criminal services. This time, too, I thank them for their work. We do not want drug trafficking and organized crime in the future, and we will not live together. There is zero tolerance in the case of drug trafficking in Hungary. Thank you. Honorable members of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, finally, let us say a few words about violence, verbal, and online aggression. Today we are here because there are opposition politicians who are armed with public political meetings. I ask you not to lose your cool. We do not live in the ancient forest like wild boars. I ask the members of the Parliament to keep the pace, calm and calm. I wish you all productive work, colorful and forward-looking debates, and I ask you to continue to support the government's work. Thank you for your attention.